Good morning everyone. Welcome to English literature class. In this session children, we will discuss All Summer in a Day written by Ray Douglas Bradbury. Let's discuss objectives. By the end of this video children, you will be able to comprehend the lines of the text at pages number 108 and 109. Also, you will be able to explain the meanings of the difficult words according to the context. Along with that, you will be able to tell some of the literary devices that we have read in the text. Now children, open your treasure trove, a collection of ICSE poems and short stories book at page number 108. Let's begin the reading now. Children, I have highlighted the difficult words and their meanings, so note down them side by side in your textbook with pen. Ready? Ready. Now, soon. Do the scientists really know? Will it happen today? Will it? Look, see for yourself. The children pressed to each other like so many roses, so many weeds, intermixed, peering out for a look at the hidden sun. Children, note down the meanings on your book. Weeds, wild plants. Peering, looking. Here the children were inside the classroom, looking out of the window in the supervision of their teacher. So the children, through their conversation, we can analyze that the children were waiting to see the sun. So the teacher was asking them if they were ready to see the sun, and the children responded yes, they were. Further, curiously they asked if the sun would appear now. The teacher said that it would appear soon. Now curious children asked the teacher if the scientists were really sure that right now the sun was going to rise. So the doubts were creeping in their young minds. Some were overexcited. The teacher told them to look out and see themselves whether the sun would come or not. After this, children were getting impatient to see the sun. Why so? Because they had never seen the sun before. So they were little impatient as well as curious. The children got closer to each other like so many roses and so many weeds. Students, here the author has used a simile. Now what is simile? Simile is a phrase that is used to show comparison with as or like. The children have been compared to the roses and to weeds. Some were lovely and innocent, so they were like roses, while some children could be troublesome, so they have been compared to weeds. So they all were looking out to see the hidden sun, which was going to rise. Now let's continue reading. It rained. So it was constantly raining on Venus. It had been raining for 7 years, thousands upon thousands of days compounded and filled from one end to the other with rain, with a drum and gush of water, with the sweet crystal fall of showers and the concussion of storms so heavy they were tidal waves come over the islands. Now children, note down the meanings. Compounded, combined. Sweet crystals, water drops. Concussion, violent effect from a hard blow. So children, we can imagine how horrible it would be when it rained for 2 hours. People who had been living on Venus had been witness to the continuous rain from several years. When it rained, it sounded like drum beats. There was a great roar of water drops falling from the sky. So here the author has used auditory imagery. Now children, auditory imagery is used to analyze sounds when there is no external stimulus present. So there was a lot of water all around as if tidal waves come over. So children, we can imagine that how immensely it rained. 1,000 forests had been crushed under the rain and grown up 1,000 times to be crushed again. It means that the heavy downpour destroyed the 1,000 forests on the planet Venus. Now children, why the author has used word crushed? The author has used the word crushed because the soil gets loose when it goes on raining continuously, and the trees emerge into the soil from where it grows generally. But here, the years of rain had not given trees any chance to grow again. And this was the way life was forever on the planet Venus. And this was the schoolroom of the children of the rocket men and women who had come to a raining world to set up civilization and live out their lives. Rocket men and women? People migrated in a rocket from Earth to Venus. So, the people living on the planet Venus were habitual of this way of continuous rain. These people had also come from the Earth in rockets to the planet Venus in hope of a better life and to set up a civilization here. It's stopping! It's stopping! Yes, yes! Margaret stood apart from them, from these children who could ever remember a time when there wasn't rain and rain and rain. In these lines, we can see the excitement of the children. Now, students, from where were they looking out? They were looking out from a window of a schoolroom. Where was the school? It was in the underground tunnel. Amongst those children, there was a girl who was really different from them. Her name was Margot. She always expected the rain to stop and the sun to come up. From the moment Margot came to live on the planet Venus, all she saw was continuous rain. Page number 109. They were all 9 years old, and if there had been a day 7 years ago when the sun came out for an hour and showed its face to the stunned world, they could not recall. Recall, remember. So students, these children have experienced nothing but rain, because the last time when the sun had appeared on the planet Venus, they were too young to remember anything. That is, they were just 2 years old. So children, could they remember anything which they had seen when they were 2 years old? No, they could not remember. Why? Because they were young, very young, 7 years ago. So what is the age of these children now? These children are 9 years old. Sometimes at night, she heard them stir in remembrance, and she knew they were dreaming and remembering gold or a yellow crayon or a coin large enough to buy the world with. She knew they thought they remembered a warmness like a blushing in the face, in the body, in the arms and legs, and trembling hands. Trembling, shivering. Now Margot had come from the planet Earth to live on Venus. She remembers the sun and how she feels in it. She was sleeping along with the other children. She used to hear some children moving about on their beds and imagining how the sun would be. Some would imagine the sun as something that is gold. Some would imagine it as a yellow crayon. The author has used here color imagery. Color imagery is the ability to visualize a color in its absence. So some students would imagine it to be a huge large coin which has a great value. The author has used hyperbole here. Hyperbole is an exaggeration of something normal. The author has exaggerated the value of the sun as no coin can buy the world. But then they always awoke to the tattling drum, the endless shaking down of clear bead necklaces upon the roof, The walk, the gardens, the forest, and their dreams were gone. All day yesterday they had read in class about the sun, about how like a lemon it was, and how hot. And they had written small stories or essays or poems about it. I think the sun is a flower that blooms for just 1 hour. Now, students, when the children were imagining about how the sun would be, but what happened in the morning? They always got up with a roar of clouds, roar of lightning, and a lot of rain. The author has used auditory imagery to describe these lines. So, all the dreams that the children saw when they were sleeping were shattered as soon as they woke up from their sleep. Why? Because it was always raining on the planet Venus. So, students, as we have read that just a day before, the teacher in the schoolroom of the planet Venus had discussed with the students that how the sun looked like. She said it looked like a lemon, which is very hot. The author has used a simile here to describe the sun. Here the sun is being compared to a lemon. The children have brought their own poems, essays, and stories about what the sun could be. While everybody was discussing their thoughts about what the sun is, Margot also shared her views that sun was just like a flower that blossomed for an hour. The author has used metaphor here to describe the sun. Metaphor is the close likeness between two objects without using word as or like. Here the sun is compared to a flower. That was Margot's poem, read in a quiet voice in the still classroom while the rain was falling outside. Here, Margot had written that particular poem on the sun, and she read it in the class in silent voice. When she was reading, it was raining outside. "Oh, you didn't write that," protested one of the boys. "I did," said Margot. "I did." "William," said the teacher. But that was yesterday. Now the rain was slackening and the children were crushed in the great thick windows. Protested, opposed, slackening, loosening. Here Margot was mocked by one of the boys called William. He did not like Margot because, according to him, Margot's imagination about the sun was not correct, and he instantly said that she had not written that poem. She had copied it from somewhere, and William was asked to keep quiet by the teacher at that time. Now the rain was reducing in intensity, and the children gathered around the windows. The author has used metaphor here. Were the windows really thick? No, the windows were not thick. It was because of the constant rain that the water was coming on the windows and making the windows look thick. So here the children could not move freely because they were pressing on each other. "Where's the teacher? She will be back." "She would better hurry. We will miss it." They turned on themselves like a feverish wheel at tumbling spokes. Feverish wheel, excitement. So students, when the children were looking out of the window at that time, the teacher was not with them. They were trying to see the sunrise, and one of the students asked where was the teacher. The second one replied that she would be back in some time. The first one said that she must quickly come back, otherwise they would miss that. They all were excited for this moment, like a restless wheel. The author has used a simile here to describe the excitement of the children. Margot stood alone. She was a very frail girl who looked as if she had been lost in the rain for years and the rain had washed out the blue from her eyes and the red from her mouth and the yellow from her hair. She was an old photograph dusted from an album, whitened away, and if she spoke at her voice would be a ghost. Now she stood separate, staring at the rain and the loud, wet world beyond the huge glass. Frail, feeble, staring, looking. Now, students, let's understand these lines. Margot was different from all. She was standing there patiently when children were looking out. She was a delicate girl. She was tired of the constant rain. The rain had caused an ill effect on her body and mind. So that is why she had lost blue from her eyes, red from her mouth, and yellow from her hair. All the sweetness that a 9 years old child can have had vanished from Margot's life. She looked like an old photograph. It means that she looked pale. Here the author has used metaphor. He has compared Margot to an old photograph. And when she spoke, her voice was ghost-like. The author has used color imagery to describe her pale color. So children, we can conclude that the sun is very important. We can see how its absence has brought ill effect on Margot, a young girl who is just 9 years old. So that's all for today's session, children. I hope you have understood well. Your homework for today is to solve the homework given in your SNAP homework. Thank you.